Buddy, let's see. We should be streaming any second now. We are streaming somewhere. Connecting software, and we are live. Hi, everybody. I'm your KevinlyFather. We are going to watch the State of the Disunion. President Biden of the United States every year has to give an update to Congress. Doesn't have to be a big speech. Doesn't have to be bicameral attendance. But the Constitution just says, let them know what's going on. And so that's what this is. Former disgraced President Trump will be live tweeting as well. So if anything happens there, I'm watching that. And if it comes in, then we'll take a look at it. Hi, Jessica. Hi, Babe. Stephanie's in here. Marcy as well. Tracy, good to see you. They are just announcing the cabinet right now. I had the volume on, but Fox just kept talking over the cabinet. And so Fox views this as an opportunity, finally, for Joe Biden to address the nation and come clean about Hunter Biden's laptop. And so that's what Fox is looking for here. Let's see what they have to say about any of this. There was Pete Buttigieg there.
The president isn't still flying overhead.
They were saying earlier that this is going to be tough for Joe Biden because instead of Nancy Pelosi behind him, it's Kevin McCarthy, the housekeeper. But it's behind him. So I don't know why that's tough because of Kevin's boring deep holes of passion into his back. I don't know. Hi, Kimchi. Good to see you. Anne, good to see you as well. Welcome aboard, everybody. So here's the deal. I am KevinlyFather, Kevin Williams, and I haven't broadcast in quite a while. I have had a back injury that's given me terrible sciatica, and sitting at the computer, I have to do some of it during the day for my regular gig, and sitting here broadcasting has been very painful. Maybe I'll rig up a system where I stand. Standing can be painful as well, but at least it's not sciatica. But I had to get to this. Been busy, and I appreciate you all. Appreciate everybody who shows up here today. If you're watching delayed, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. If you're watching and you're not commenting in the chat room, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. We're friendly here. We will fact check live as this happens. We'll pause it as it goes. If you tuned in to watch this and I pause it to say something and that annoys you, don't be here. There are many places to watch the State of the Union. So you are welcome to find it in another. At Random's here as well. Hi, At Random. Good to see you. The drinking word for today is any derivative of democracy. Democrats, democratic, all of it counts. There's one right there. Let's see what Fox has to say about all of this. A lot of handshaking, a lot of fake smiles, honestly. Here we go. This is the State of the Union. We'll leave this off because we don't get it dinged. So I didn't do an opening because every time I'm playing my opening now, or even going back retroactively, I have a license to use that little tune that happens during my opening. But now the YouTube bots, there are companies whose job it is just to bother people who use music, which is fine. You shouldn't use music you haven't paid for. I have a license for that music. So every single time that I've broadcast and used the opener, I get an email. And I'm starting to believe that maybe I get 2 or 3 emails because it's nonstop. Anyway, and then I have to go click, dispute. I have a license and I have to copy and paste the license. Then I have to click, and sign my name and then send. And then, a couple of hours later, they're like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, you're fine. At least they're allowing me to do it. Oh, what's going on here?
Officials have sent out memos hitting Republicans for everything from Trump tax cuts adding to the deficit to proposals for national abortion bans and also plans to cut Social Security and Medicare. We know this speech is widely viewed as an anchor to a 2024 announcement, but it's not supposed to look like a campaign speech. So the
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It always is. And so what?
Against all odds that needs to be protected and continued. Brett and Martha.
Elizabeth Warren.
Thank you,
Jackie. Let's go to Aisha Hasnia in Capitol Hill. She has a preview coming up of the Republican response.
Kamala looks a little bit like she's seen through a filter. Did she have work done recently?
Sarah Huckabee Sanders, and this is an interesting pick.
Yeah, Sarah Huckabee Sanders is going to give the Republican rebuttal, which let's see, this is Twitch. All right, yeah, we got a bot in here from Twitch. I'll have to pull that up and see if I can block it. I don't even know if I can do that anymore. I'll figure it out. Let's go back. I'll do that while you guys do this.
Moderate Republicans all the way to those conservatives. And that's really important for especially House.
By the way, there's no more moderate Republicans. There can't be at this point. If you're a moderate Republican, you're a hardline Republican at this point.
This White House on fairly well during the gubernatorial campaign that she ran, going after the Biden administration's pandemic response, immigration policies. So she is not going to mince words tonight. She's really going to show the difference between the GOP ideology and the left. Guys?
Aisha, thank you very much.
We're looking live at the House floor there, waiting momentarily to hear from the House Sergeant at Arms, William McFarland, as he comes out in the traditional way, introducing the President of the United States. And then President Biden will make his way down that aisle to a lot of lawmakers, senators, and House members who...
This is par for the course. The president usually waltzes in quite a bit after the 6 o'clock hour.
Known to be there.
Or 9 o'clock to them.
Address. And there's one of them right there, Sheila Jackson Lee from Texas. She's always there. Let's listen in.
Mr. Speaker, the President of the United States.
There we go.
While we watch the president move down the aisle here for a quick thought. Good evening to you, Britt.
He looks happy so far.
Hey, Britt.
Despite the applause that you hear, he is looking at the possibility of a re-election announcement soon, and he's trying to set the stage for that by basically asking Americans tonight, whom do you believe, me or your lived experiences, as Democrats like to say? This is a man whose own party members, 62% in the latest poll, do not want him to run again. So he's got to say, things are better than you think, folks. I'm better than you think, folks. I'm ready to go, and you should be ready to go with me.
No, most Democrats believe things are pretty good, but they just want young blood in there. Joe's going to be really old by the time the next election is. We all are.
Woven in these stories of people in the chamber to try to get drama, try to hit some points. The president's not known for those rhetorical kind of emotional speeches, but what do you think about this moment as perhaps he gets ready to announce a re-election bid?
Well, the Biden I knew when I covered him in the...
I like that Biden's like surprised to see people there. Oh, Secretary of the Navy. Oh, this is exciting. Hey, what are you doing here?
These people in the galleries will be, I understand, for example, Paul Pelosi, Nancy Pelosi's husband, so badly injured in that attack in his own home, may be on hand tonight and will be recognized, and that will certainly be an emotional moment. And I suspect the cheering for that will be wild. Everybody who knows Paul Pelosi, whatever they may think of his wife's politics, like the guy, and we'll see,
Trump says, is everybody getting ready for commentary on the State of the Union speech and a possible review? Are we? I never liked harsh critics because usually they're unable to do anything themselves. Perhaps this is a different situation, but let's hope it all goes well tonight. Earlier today, he said we are truly a nation in decline, and for that reason, I want Joe Biden to do well tonight. So that's nice of him.
Court justices, including the Chief Justice, and obviously the Supreme Court will likely come up in this speech as well.
Yeah, no doubt.
Britt, stand by. We're going to bring the panel back in. Dana, it's interesting that in the excerpts that were sent out, he says, my economic plan is about investing in places and people that have been forgotten. Very interesting that he's using this terminology that was so associated with President Trump, the forgotten men and women, as he tries to get back those voters that...
Yeah, Trump started that. Trump started the whole forgotten men and women.
manufacturing.
It's like they didn't exist before 2015.
Also going to see in the president.
Congratulations, JoJo, on being first.
Union worker from Ohio. So they're definitely realizing that they have a problem. They're trying to fix it. I'm not sure this is.
Joe Biden's from Scranton. Trump is a billionaire from New York City. Grew up as a child of privilege. Joe's dad was a union worker. Trump's dad was a union buster. And somehow the forgotten men and women associate with Trump.
Different priorities.
For Democrats, it's the first time you've not had a Gephardt or Pelosi, either minority or majority, in a long, long time. She helped usher in a new generation of leadership. But I think for tonight, that group is going to be challenged because they're going to have to come up with ideas also. The president will lay his out, and hopefully Republicans challenge with good stuff.
The president at the podium receiving the last round of applause here before he gets underway. He typically speaks for about an hour. We expect that he will do that this evening. And there's a interesting moment. Kevin McCarthy's waited a long time for that moment, and the speech was just handed over to him as President Biden gets ready to speak. The two of them met.
I hope it's laminated so Kevin McCarthy can't rip it up.
Spending. So we'll see if we hear anything about that tonight.
The House Speaker is saying that he is not going to rip up speeches and he's not going to do anything. He's going to honor President Biden
of the United States.
And here is President Joe Biden in his second State of the Union address.
Mr. Speaker. Thank you. You can smile. It's okay.
He said, "You can smile. It's okay." I don't know who he said that to.
Thank you. Please. Mr. Speaker, Madam Vice President, our First Lady and Second Gentleman, good to see you guys up there. Members of Congress.
First second gentleman ever.
By the way, Chief Justice, I may need a court order. She gets to go to the game tomorrow, next week. I have to stay home. Got to work something out here. Members of the Cabinet, leaders of our military, Chief Justice, Associate Justice.
I don't know either.
And retired justices.
Super Bowl. She has to stay home for the Super Bowl. Okay.
Supreme Court. And to you, my fellow Americans. You know, I start tonight by congratulating the 118th Congress and the new Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy. Speaker, I don't want to ruin your reputation, but I look forward to working with you. I want to congratulate the new leader of the House Democrats, the first African-American minority leader in history, Hakeem Jeffries.
Oh, he's standing. McCarthy's standing for it. McCarthy's been a good boy.
He won in spite of the fact I campaigned for him. Congratulations to the longest-serving leader in the history of the United States Senate, Mitch McConnell. Where are you, Mitch? And congratulations to Chuck Schumer, another term as Senate Minority Leader. I think
Majority.
This time you have a slightly bigger majority, Mr. Leader. You're the majority leader. About that much bigger? Yeah. Well, I tell you what. I want to give special recognition to someone who I think is going to be considered the greatest speaker in the history of the House of Representatives, Nancy Pelosi.
Show me the Republicans. Show me the Republicans. See if any of them clap. Because they spent the last 10 years bashing her. And, yeah, some of them are clapping. Where's Bobo? Just keep the camera on, Bobo.
The story of America is a story of progress and resilience, of always moving forward, of never, ever giving up. It's a story unique among all nations. We're the only country that has emerged from every crisis we've ever entered stronger than we got into it. Look, folks, that's what we're doing again. 2 years ago, the economy was reeling. I stand here tonight after we've created, with the help of many people in this room, 12 million new jobs. More jobs created in 2 years than any president's created in 4 years because of you all, because of the American people.
And because of COVID, to be fair, but yeah.
2 years ago, and 2 years ago, COVID had shut down, our businesses were closed, our schools were robbed of so much, and today, COVID no longer controls our lives. And 2 years ago, democracy faced its greatest threats in the Civil War, and today, though bruised, our democracy remains unbowed and unbroken.
Democracy. Kevin McCarthy just is not going to stand for democracy.
As we gather here tonight,
our country's awesome, said President Biden. The Republicans all just sit there. Wow. Let's watch that again.
Remains unbowed and unbroken.
Yeah, USA. McCarthy's just sitting there with his hands in his lap. Yeah, all the Republicans, all that's the cabinet up front, all the Republicans sitting back here, just ass on hands, can't take the time to applaud for America being strong. Wow.
As we gather here tonight,
I saw a couple of them clapping at the end there.
We're writing the next chapter in the great American story, a story of progress and resilience. When world leaders ask me to define America, and they do, believe it or not, I can define it in one word.
Anyone? Does anybody know? Posthumously. Possibility.
And I mean this. Possibilities. We don't think anything is beyond our capacity. Everything is a possibility. You know, we're often told that Democrats and Republicans can't work together. But over the past 2 years, we've proved the cynics and naysayers wrong. Yes, we disagreed plenty. And yes, there were times when Democrats went alone.
President Trump just tweeted, "Nice to see Nancy Pelosi not sitting in the background. Hopefully she's spending more time with her husband." Yes, I hope so. I would think so. He just got almost murdered by one of your supporters, Mr. Former President. Yeah.
But time and again, Democrats and Republicans came together to defend a stronger and safer Europe.
Democrats.
We came together to pass once in a generation infrastructure law, building bridges connecting our nation and our people. We came together to pass the most significant law ever, helping victims exposed to toxic burn pits. And in fact,
come on, Republicans, come on. It's the military. You got to stand. They're doing it.
It's important.
They're doing it. Even Bogert is reelected.
In fact, I signed over 300 bipartisan pieces of legislation since becoming president. From reauthorizing the Violence Against Women Act, the Electoral Count Reform Act, the Respect for Marriage Act that protects the right to marry the person you love. And to my Republican friends, if we could work together the last Congress, there's no reason we can't work together and find consensus on important things in this Congress as well.
Well, there is, because now they control the House, so nothing's going to happen, Joe. Sorry.
I think
they're not even going to stand together, let alone work together. Who's in the yellow dress? Oh, we've all gone to the cinema, everyone.
Folks.
Oh, President Trump has something to say. Big stumble on Schumer. He called him minority leader. Can't do that. Each time he's going off script, he's making a mistake. Hopefully, he will improve. So much optimism in that man. Yeah, but he corrected himself. I saw that too. You saw that. And then he corrected himself. Of course, you're the majority leader, the majority, in a very... yeah, we saw that. So he corrected himself. I guess former President Trump didn't see that.
You all are as formed as I am, but I think the people sent us a clear message. Fighting for the sake of fighting. Power for the sake of power. Conflict for the sake of conflict gets us nowhere. That's always been my vision of our country, and I know it's many of yours. To restore the soul of this nation, to rebuild the backbone of America, America's middle class, and to unite the country. We've been sent here to finish the job, in my view. For decades, the middle class has been hollowed out in more than, and not no one administration, but for a long time. Too many good-paying manufacturing jobs move overseas. Factories closed down. Once thriving cities and towns that many of you represent became shadows of what they used to be. Along the way, something else we lost.
Like Bakersfield, California, the murder capital of the state, the top 5% crime in the entire nation, right, Kevin McCarthy?
Pride, our sense of self-worth. I ran for president to fundamentally change things, to make sure our economy works for everyone, so we can all feel that pride in what we do. To build an economy from the bottom up and the middle out, not from the top down. Because when the middle class does well, the poor have a ladder up, and the wealthy still do very well. We all do well.
Will not clap for the middle class. Bernie's still wearing his mask. I love Bernie. We're all Bernie Sanders.
I know a lot of you always kid me for always quoting my dad, but my dad used to say, Joey, a job's about a lot more than a paycheck. He really would say this. It's about a lot more than a paycheck.
Okay.
It's about your dignity.
Yep.
It's about respect. It's about being able to look your kid in the eye and say, honey, it's going to be okay, and mean it. Well, folks, so let's look at the results. We're not finished yet by any stretch of the imagination, but unemployment rate is at 3.4%, a 50-year low.
Yes, it is. That's true.
A near record.
That Republicans aren't going to clap for unemployment. No, never going to happen.
A near record.
You know what they hate? Jobs, jobs, and jobs.
Unemployment.
They make cinema, sit by yourself.
Record unemployment for black and Hispanic workers. We've already created, your help, 800,000 good-paying manufacturing jobs, the fastest growth in 40 years.
And remember, under Trump, before COVID, manufacturing was in contraction because of his tariffs, directly as a result of his tariffs.
And where is it written? Where is it written that America can't lead the world in manufacturing? And I don't know where that's written. For too many decades, we imported projects and exported jobs. Now, thanks to what you've all done, we're exporting American products and creating American jobs.
Well, no, we don't like American jobs.
Inflation has been a global problem because the pandemic disrupted our supply chains, and Putin's unfair and brutal war in Ukraine disrupted energy supplies as well as food supplies, blocking all that grain in Ukraine. But we're better positioned than any country on earth right now. But we have more to do. But here at home, inflation is coming down. Here at home, gas prices are down $1.50 from their peak. Food inflation is coming down, not fast enough, but coming down. Inflation has fallen every month for the last 6 months.
That's
while
true.
Take-home pay has gone up.
That's true.
Additionally, over the last 2 years, a record 10 million Americans applied to start new businesses. 10 million. And by the way, every time.
That's good. Americans starting business, right? Right, Republicans? That's good. Really good. Really, really good.
Every time someone starts in small...
He's done with the applause. He's just like, now he's just railroading everybody.
Business is an act of hope. And Madam Vice President, I want to thank you for leading that effort to ensure that small businesses have access to capital and the historic laws we enacted that are going to just come into being. Standing here last year, I shared with you a story of American genius and possibilities. Semiconductors, small computer chips the size of a fingerprint that power everything, from cell phones to automobiles and so much more. These chips were invented in America. Let's get that straight. They were invented in America. We used to make 40% of the world's chips. In the last several decades, we lost our edge. We're down to only producing 10%. We all saw what happened during the pandemic when chip factories shut down overseas. Today's automobiles need 3,000 chips, each of those automobiles. But American automobiles couldn't make enough cars because there weren't enough chips. Car prices went up, people got laid off. So did everything from refrigerators to cell phones. We can never let that happen again. That's why we came together to pass the Bipartisan Chips and Science Act. Folks, I know I've been criticized for saying this, but I'm not changing my view.
I didn't
We're
buy
going to
car
make
yet.
sure the supply chain for America begins in America.
Yes.
The supply chain begins in America.
Yes. Come on,
We've
Republicans.
already
You can
created-
stand. You can. There you go. Keep going. You can do this. America's
created-
nice. You can stand up for America.
800,000 new manufacturing jobs without this law, before the law kicks in. With this new law, we're going to create hundreds of thousands of new jobs across the country. And I mean all across the country, throughout not just the coast, but through the middle of the country as well. That's going to come from companies that have announced more than $300 billion in investment in American manufacturing over the next few years.
They haven't
Outside
announced
of
it, but
Columbus,
yes.
Ohio, Intel is building semiconductor factories on 1,000 acres.
Like
literally a field of dreams. It's going to create 10,000 jobs, that one investment. 7,000 construction jobs. 3,000 jobs in those factories once they're finished. They call them factories. Jobs paying an average of $130,000 a year, and many do not require a college degree. Jobs. Because we work together, these jobs where people don't have.
I just have to point out here that Trump just tweeted, "If democracy is unbroken," that's a drinking word, by the way, that counts. "He should stop the weaponization of Republicans by the FBI and the Justice Department." The weaponizations of Republicans. Biden has weaponized Republicans to go after the Chinese balloons, or I don't know, but this is the guy who just criticized the president for saying he's using the word folks too much. And he just said weaponization of Republicans. Just so you know. That's what's going on. That's their leader. The people that aren't standing up when he says America, this is their guy.
To leave home to search for opportunity. And it's just getting started. Think about the new homes, the small businesses, the medium-sized businesses. So much more that's going to be needed to support those 3,000 permanent jobs and the factories that are going to be built. Talk to mayors and governors, Democrats and Republicans, and they'll tell you what this means for their communities. We're seeing these field of dreams transform to the heartland. But to maintain the strongest economy in the world, we need the best infrastructure in the world. And folks,
Ann's got a question, or Babe's got a question. What does that even mean? Babe, that last tweet by Trump, that means that he's an idiot. There you go. I'm glad I'm here to explain.
as you all know,
Pete.
we used to be
There's
number
Merrick
one in
Garland.
the world in infrastructure. We've sunk to 13th.
It's funny that Merrick Garland was so slow to stand up. So weird, Merrick Garland being slow to stand up for something. Usually he's, none of us are waiting for Merrick Garland to stand. I don't remember ever waiting for Merrick.
In the world. The United States of America.
Yeah!
13th in the world in infrastructure, modern infrastructure.
Scold the Republicans. Yeah.
Because we came together and passed the bipartisan infrastructure law.
Yeah, we did.
The largest investment in infrastructure since President Eisenhower's interstate highway system.
Yeah. Oh, salad time. Thank you, producer JoJo.
Already we've funded over 20,000 projects, including major airports from Boston to Atlanta to Portland. Projects that are going to put thousands of people to work rebuilding our highways, our bridges, our railroads, our tunnels, ports, airports, clean water, high-speed internet, all across America. Urban, rural, tribal. And folks, we're just getting started. We're just getting started. And I mean it sincerely. I want to thank my Republican friends who voted.
He's pretty much done, unfortunately. Nothing's going to happen over the next couple of years.
Voted for the law. And my Republican friends who voted against it as well.
Oh, okay, now Trump's way off base here. Trump is talking about the Electoral Reform Act. Oh, come on. I'm going to have to make this bigger, unfortunately. Sorry, folks. There we go. His tweets are different sizes all the time. So, and they're not tweets. Remember, he's allowed back on Twitter now. Elon did that a couple of months ago. He hasn't done a single tweet because now he's got his own tweet. So, anyway. The lawyers, let's see what he says here. Why did they need the Electoral Reform Act? The vice president was told he had no choice but to send the votes back to the old crow, Mitch McConnell. The lawyers convinced the vice president to do something he should not have to do. He did not have to do. He should have sent the votes back to the state legislature for checking. Nothing to do with what we're talking about right now. He's just mad that he's not giving the State of the Union.
But I still get asked to fund the projects in those districts as well. But don't worry. I promised I'd be a president for all Americans.
Yeah.
We'll fund these projects. And I'll see you at the groundbreaking.
Yeah. Just like he did at that bridge in Kentucky the other day with Mitch McConnell. And when it comes time for the next election, the Republicans will take credit for the infrastructure.
Look, this law will further unite all of America. Projects like Brent Spence Bridge in Kentucky over the Ohio River.
Okay,
built 60 years ago.
Yeah.
Badly needed repairs. One of the nation's most congested freight routes, carrying $2 billion worth of freight every single day across the Ohio River.
Yeah.
And folks, I've been talking about
it's all eggs. Like 8 trucks of eggs.
Fixing it for decades. But we're really finally going to get it done. Yes. I went there last month with Democrats and Republicans and from both states to deliver a commitment of $1.6 billion for this project. And while I was there, I met a young woman named Sarah, who's here tonight.
Is this going to be a limerick? I hope it's a limerick.
I don't know where Sarah is. Is she up in the...
I met a young girl named Sarah.
The box? I don't know. Sarah, how are you?
Oh, there she is.
Well, Sarah, for 30 years.
A young woman. She's a young woman. But the funny thing is, to Biden, she is a young woman.
For 30 years, I learned, she told me she'd been a proud member of the Iron Workers Local 44, known as...
Just show you what's going on with Truth Social right now. Hold on a second. Let me refresh here, see if it comes up. And it does, but I can't show you. Oh, well. Oh, yeah, I can. I can do this. Hold on. Let's see what's happening. See if you guys can see this. There it is. There it is. There. Come on. There it is. There it is. That's what's going on with Truth Social right now. They didn't bother to purchase the server space. So, yeah. Good job, President Trump's enterprises.
Known as the Cowboys in the Sky.
What?
The folks who built Cincinnati's skyline. Sarah said she can't wait to be 10 stories above the Ohio River building that new bridge. God bless her. That's pride. And that's what we're also building. We're building back pride. Look, we're also replacing poisonous lead pipes that go into 10 million homes in America.
I don't get that.
400,000 school and child care centers. So every child in America can drink the water instead of having permanent damage to their brain.
How can we not? Oh, that explains the Republicans. All right.
Look, we're making sure that every community in America has access to affordable high-speed internet. No parent should have to drive by McDonald's parking lot to help them do their homework online with their kids, which many thousands were doing across the country. And when we do these projects, and again, I get criticized for this, but I make no excuses for it, we're going to buy American. We're going to buy America. Folks, and it's totally consistent with international trade rules.
There's a story about that. He was roundly criticized when, during the Obama administration, it was his job to write the Recovery Act, which he did. And he said, we're going to buy American. We're going to buy American. That's what Joe Biden was saying in 2009. That's how we get the economy back on track after the recession. And he was criticized by the Republicans. Why? Because if we're going to buy American only as a government, then other countries aren't going to buy American. That's what they said. That's what they honestly said. They criticized Joe Biden in 2009 for saying buy American. And that's why he said that.
Buy America has been the law since 1933, but for too long, past administrations, Democrat and Republican, have fought to get around it. Not anymore. Tonight, I'm announcing new standards require all construction materials used in federal infrastructure projects to be made in America.
Get out there and buy steel stock right now. Concrete companies as well. That's going to drive the price up. In fact, this happened 10 minutes ago, probably. It's already spiking.
Made in America.
Wait, did he say it was a legislative proposal, or did he say it's an executive order?
I mean it.
Let's go back.
Buy America has been the law since 1933, but for too long, past administrations, Democrat and Republican, have fought to get around it. Not anymore. Tonight, I'm announcing new standards require all construction materials used in federal infrastructure projects to be made in America.
Sounds like a regulation. I think he can do it.
Made in America.
He should try and push it through Congress and just watch the Republicans vote it down. You know what? They'll vote down anything. Anything the Democrats come up with. More diapers for babies. Safe baby formula. Vote it down.
I mean it. Lumber, glass, drywall, fiber optic cable. And on my watch, American roads, bridges, and American highways are going to be made with American products as well. Folks, my economic plan is about investing in places and people that have been forgotten. So many of you listening to me tonight, I know you feel it. So many of you felt like you've just simply been forgotten. Amid the economic upheaval of the past 4 decades, too many people have been left behind and treated like they're invisible. Maybe that's you watching from home. Remember the jobs that went away. You remember them, don't you? The folks at home remember them.
Which Jew watching from home? Is he talking about JoJo?
Too many people have been left behind and treated like they're invisible. Maybe that's you watching from home.
Oh, that's you, not that Jew. Okay, sorry.
Remember the jobs that went away. You remember them, don't you? The folks at home remember them. You wonder whether the path even exists anymore for your children to get ahead without having to move away. Well, that's why I get that. That's why we're building an economy where no one's left behind. Jobs are coming back. Pride is coming back because choices we made in the last several years. You know, this is, in my view, a blue-collar blueprint to rebuild America and make a real difference in your lives at home. For example, too many of you lay in bed at night like my dad did, staring at the ceiling, wondering what in God's name happens if your spouse gets cancer or your child gets deadly ill.
or has a stroke,
or something happens to you, what are you going to get money to pay for those medical bills?
that wasn't enough. It's fantastic that he's there. He won. The Americans in Pennsylvania saw fit to see past a temporary medical condition and voted John Fetterman into office. And I think that speaks volumes. I called it wrong. I said after that debate, I said he wasn't going to win, and John Fetterman did. That shows you another primary goodness of the people of the great state of Pennsylvania. It's a Commonwealth. Shut up!
Or you're going to have to sell the house or try to get a second mortgage on it. I get it. I get it. With the Inflation Reduction Act that I signed into law, we're taking on powerful interests to bring health care costs down so you can sleep better at night with more security. You know, we pay more.
He's already helping Kevin McCarthy sleep. Speaking of which, Donald Trump just said, Kevin McCarthy, who's a great guy, is having a seriously hard time staying awake. I give him credit for being true to himself and the cause. He's just not interested in what is being fed to the audience. Apparently someone's watching.
For prescription drugs than any nation in the world. Let me say it again. We pay more for prescription drugs than any major nation on earth. For example, 1 in 10 Americans has diabetes. Many of you in this chamber do, and in the audience. But every day, millions need insulin to control their diabetes.
Enough of your insulins!
Diabetes, so they can literally stay alive. Insulin's been around for over 100 years. The guy who invented it didn't even patent it because he wanted it to be available for everyone. It cost the drug companies roughly $10 a vial to make that insulin. Packaging and all, you may get up to $13. But Big Pharma has been unfairly charging people hundreds of dollars, $4 to $5.
Trump just tweeted he seems very angry, shouting into the mic when he's trying to come across as conciliatory. Trump doesn't use that word. Perhaps somebody should walk up to the dais, tap him on the shoulder, and say, be cool. That might be his, but that first part, that's not a Trump sentence.
$500 a month, making record profits. Not anymore. Not anymore. So many things that we did are only now coming to fruition. We said we were doing this, and we said we passed the law to do it, but people didn't know because the law didn't take effect until January 1 of this year. We capped the cost of insulin at $35 a month for seniors on Medicare.
On Medicare, yeah. It should be for all diabetics. Or anyone, really.
I'm sure you're getting the same calls I'm getting. Look, there are millions of other Americans who do not or are not on Medicare, including 200,000 young people with type 1 diabetes who need this insulin to stay alive. Let's finish the
Why are they going to Bernie? Does Bernie have diabetes now, too?
job this time. Let's cap the cost of insulin for everybody at $35.
Trump's been tweeting a bunch, but the servers are down so often on his broken website that I can't even keep up.
Big Pharma's still going to do very well, I promise you all. I promise you they're going to do very well. This law also caps and won't even go into effect until 2025. It costs out-of-pocket drug costs for seniors on Medicare at a maximum of $2,000 a year. You don't have to pay more than $2,000 a year, no matter how much your drug costs are. Because you know why? You all know it. Many of you, like many in my family, have cancer. You know the drugs can range from $10,000, $11,000, $14,000, $15,000 for the cancer drugs. And if drug prices rise faster than inflation, drug companies are going to have to pay Medicare back the difference. We're finally giving Medicare the power to negotiate drug prices, bringing down Bringing down prescription drug costs doesn't just save seniors money. It cuts the federal deficit by billions of dollars, by hundreds of billions of dollars. Because these prescription drugs are drugs purchased by Medicare to keep their commitment to the seniors. Well, guess what? Instead of paying $400 or $500 a month, you're paying $15. That's a lot of savings for the federal government. And by the way, why wouldn't we want that? Now, some members here are threatening, and I know it's not an official party position, so I'm going to exaggerate, but threatening to repeal the Inflation Reduction Act. As my coach, that's okay, that's fair. As my football coach used to say, lots of luck.
So Matt Gaetz and Lauren Bobo are a couple clapping right now.
In your senior year.
What?
But threatening to repeal the Inflation Reduction Act. As my coach, that's okay, that's fair. As my football coach used to say, lots of luck in your senior year. Make no mistake, if you try anything to raise the cost of prescription drugs, I will veto it. Look.
Because I'm the president, damn it.
I'm pleased to say that more Americans have health insurance now than ever in history. A record 16 million people.
Wait, who just did Is that Romney?
Look. I'm pleased to say that more Americans have health insurance now than ever in history. A record 16 million people are enrolled in the Affordable Care Act. And thanks to the law I signed last year, saving millions are saving $800 a year on their premiums. And by the way, that law was written and the benefit expires in 2025. So my plea to some of you, at least in this audience, let's finish the job and make these savings permanent. Expand coverage of Medicaid. Look, the Inflation Reduction Act is also the most significant investment ever in climate change. Ever. Lowering utility bills, creating American jobs, leading the world to a clean energy future. I visited the devastating aftermath of record floods, droughts, storms, and wildfires from Arizona to Mexico to all the way up to the Canadian border. More timber has been burned, as I've observed from helicopters, than the entire state of Missouri. And we don't have global warming? Not a problem. In addition to emergency recovery, from Puerto Rico to Florida to Idaho, we're rebuilding for the long term. New electric grids that are able to weather major storms and not prevent those forest fires. Roads and water systems withstand the next big flood. Clean energy to cut pollution and create jobs in communities often left behind. We're going to build 500,000 electric vehicle charging stations installed across the country by tens of thousands of IBEW workers.
Maybe I should get an electric car. Haven't thought of that.
And we're helping families save more than $1,000 a year with tax credits to purchase electric vehicles and efficient appliances, energy-efficient appliances.
Trump literally just tweeted this. Joe's the one who destroyed the supply chain, in capitals. Now he's talking about how to rebuild it. He was the president! Oh my God. Joe was a private citizen at the time.
Historic conservation efforts to be responsible.
He's an idiot.
Stewards of our land. Let's face reality. The climate crisis doesn't care if you're in a red or blue state. It's an existential threat. We have an obligation, not to ourselves, but to our children and grandchildren, to confront it. I'm proud of how America, at last, is stepping up to the challenge. We're still going to need oil and gas for a while. But guess what? No, we do. But there's so much more to do. We got to finish the job. And we pay for these investments in our future by finally making the wealthiest and biggest corporations begin to pay their fair share. Just begin.
So that's going to be the immediate takeaway, is that he's now reversed himself. Because before, once he said to a kid during the campaign that they were going to get rid of oil and gas. And that's true. Eventually, oil and gas is going to be phased out. We're going to run out of it. So that part is true. But he says we're still going to need oil and gas for a long time. Also true. It's a transition. Anyway.
Look, I'm a capitalist. I'm a capitalist, but pay your fair share.
He mispronounced Catholic.
I think a lot of you at home agree with me and many people that you know. The tax system is not fair. It is not fair. Look, the idea that in 2020, 55 of the largest corporations in America, the Fortune 500, made $40 billion in profits and paid zero in federal taxes? Zero? Folks, it's simply not fair. But now, because of the law I signed, billion-dollar companies have to pay a minimum of 15%. God love them.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the greatest accomplishments of Joe Biden's era. It never gets mentioned. What about the child tax credit? The Republicans hate Biden so much that they got rid of that child tax credit, which, if you have kids, you were getting $300, $600, $900 a month. And the Republicans got rid of it, and people still voted for Republicans.
15%. That's less than a nurse pays. And I need to be crystal clear. I said at the very beginning, under my plans, as long as I'm president, nobody earning less than $400,000 will pay an additional penny in taxes. Nobody, not one penny. But let's finish the job. There's more to do. We have to reward work, not just wealth. Pass my proposal for the billionaire minimum tax. You know, there's 1,000 billionaires in America. It's up from about 600 in the beginning of the term. But no billionaire should be paying a lower tax rate than a school teacher or firefighter. I mean it. Think about it. I mean, look.
And the Republicans sit on their hands. No, billionaires deserve a break because if you've got 10 billion and then you've got 7 billion, how are you going to live?
I'm enthusiastic about that, but think about it. Think about it. Have you noticed Big Oil just reported its profits, record profits?
Shell alone, just the Shell Oil Company, $40 billion. Record profits, $40 billion.
Last year they made $200 billion.
Yep.
In the midst of a global energy crisis.
Yeah.
I think it's outrageous. Why? They invested too little of that profit to increase domestic production.
Yep.
And when I talk to a couple of them, they say, we're afraid you're going to shut down all the oil wells and all the oil refineries anyway, so why should we invest in them? I said, we're going to need oil for at least another decade. And that's going to exceed and beyond that. We're going to need it. Production.
That's true. At least another decade. It wasn't a lie. And beyond that. And the Republicans laugh.
They had, in fact, invested in the production to keep gas prices down. Instead, they used the record profits to buy back their own stock. Rewarding.
He should say at least another 50 years. He should have said that.
The CEOs and shareholders. Corporations ought to do the right thing. That's why I propose we quadruple the tax on corporate stock buybacks and encourage long-term investments. They'll still make considerable profit. Let's finish the job and close the loopholes that allow very wealthy to avoid paying their taxes. Instead of cutting the number of audits for wealthy taxpayers, I just signed a law to reduce the deficit by $114 billion by cracking down on wealthy tax cheats. That's being fiscally responsible. In the last 2 years, my administration has cut the deficit by more than $1.7 trillion, the largest deficit reduction in American history. Under the previous administration, the American deficit went up 4 years in a row because those record deficits.
That's true. Before COVID.
No president added more to the national debt in any 4 years than my predecessor.
That's true. Trump added 1/4 of the national debt.
Nearly 25% of the entire national debt that took over 200 years to accumulate was added by just one administration alone, the last one.
Yep.
They're the facts. Check it out.
Well, now they're booing him?
Check it out.
That's true. It is true. Point Biden.
How did Congress respond to that debt? They did the right thing. They lifted the debt ceiling 3 times without preconditions or crisis. They paid American bills.
Yeah. Look at Kevin McCarthy now getting into it in the background. Oh, now we got a rally going. That's true. Congress lifted the debt ceiling. In fact, Trump, remember, shut down the government trying to get money for his wall. Congress went through it. We had a government shutdown, lost trillions of dollars in value in the government, in the country, couldn't get things done. There was a tsunami that was on its way to Hawaii, and I couldn't find the evacuation sites online because for some reason they shut down the website because the government was shut down. Trump didn't win that argument, by the way. Trump ended up declaring a national emergency to build his border wall. You remember that? And then he stole money from the military. Anyway.
To prevent an economic disaster in the country. So tonight I'm asking the Congress to follow suit. Let's commit here tonight to the full faith and credit of the United States of America will never, ever be questioned.
Pay the bills.
So some of my Republican friends want to take the economy hostage. I get it, unless I agree to their economic plans. All of you at home should know what those plans are. Instead of making the wealthy pay their fair share, some Republicans want Medicare and Social Security to sunset. I'm not saying it's a majority.
No, you do. That's in Rick Scott's plan.
Let me give you, anybody who doubts it, contact my office. I'll give you a copy.
Yeah, she's standing up and you lie in her real mink coat.
The proposal. That means Congress doesn't vote.
This is by far the most interesting State of the Union speech I've ever seen.
Well, I'm glad to see you. No, I tell you, I enjoy.
What? I don't know what she just yelled there. Anyone? Somebody check Twitter. What is she yelling?
Conversion.
Hold on. Let's go back.
Office, I'll give you a copy. I'll give you a copy of the proposal. That means Congress doesn't vote. Well, I'm glad to see you. No,
she yelled liar. No, that's true. That's what's in Rick Scott's proposal. Senator Rick Scott, the gentleman Republican in the Senate who's responsible for getting other Republican senators elected. Failed, by the way. The Democrats ended up gaining one, which has never happened, like in the last 100 years, in a midterm. Anyway, it's not really important. He's talking about Rick Scott's plan, and it's true. Rick Scott wants to sunset all federal legislation.
Hey, I enjoy conversion. You know, it means if Congress doesn't keep the programs the way they are, they'd go away. Other Republicans say, I'm not saying it's a majority of you. I don't even think it's even a significant, but it's being proposed by.
I don't know what someone just yelled. Somebody over to his left yelled.
Enjoy conversion. You know, it means if Congress doesn't keep the programs the way they are, they'd go away. Other Republicans say, I'm not saying it's a majority of you. I don't even think it's even a significant, but it's being proposed by individuals. I'm not politely not naming them, but it's being proposed by some of you. Look, folks.
She said, who? Rick Scott. He's being polite. He's not calling him out in the State of the Union.
The idea is that we're not going to.
There's Marjorie again.
We're not going to be moved into being threatened to default on the debt if we don't respond. Folks.
There he is. There's Rick Scott. Right here. That's the guy who's proposed sunsetting all federal programs, including Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid, by the way. Anyway, he who shall not be named. Looks familiar? Anyway. And yet they're like, what? What? Rick Scott's like, oh, God. No, none of the Republicans pay attention to what's actually going on, so they wouldn't even know.
So, folks, as we all apparently agree, Social Security and Medicare is off the books now, right? They're not to be stopped. All right.
All right. All right. And some of the Republicans are standing up. Yeah. Well played, sir. Well played.
Social Security and Medicare are a lifeline for millions of seniors. Americans have to pay into them from the very first paycheck they started. So tonight, let's all agree, and we apparently are, let's stand up for seniors.
Seniors vote. Kevin McCarthy knows that. Like a shot.
Stand up and show them. We will not cut Social Security. We will not cut Medicare. Those benefits belong to the American people. They earned it. And if anyone tries to cut Social Security, which apparently no one's going to do, and if anyone tries to cut Medicare, I'll stop them. I'll veto it. And look, I'm not going to allow them to be taken away. Not today, not tomorrow, not ever. But apparently it's not going to be a problem. Next month, when I offer my fiscal plan, I ask my Republican friends to lay down their plan as well. I really mean it. Let's sit down together and discuss our mutual plans together. Let's do that.
All right.
I can tell you.
I don't know who that is, the brunette in the back there. I mean, I might know who that is. I don't recognize her, is what I'm saying.
The plan I'm going to show you is going to cut the deficit by another $2 trillion. And it won't cut a single bit of Medicare or Social Security. In fact, we're going to extend the Medicare Trust Fund at least 2 decades, because that's going to be the next argument. How do we keep it solvent, right? Well, we'll not raise tax on anyone making under 400 grand, but we'll pay for it the way we talked about tonight, by making sure that the wealthy and big corporations pay their fair share. Yep. Look. Here's the deal. They aren't just taking advantage of the tax code. They're taking advantage of you, the American consumer. Here's my message to all of you out there. I have your back. We're already preventing Americans from receiving surprise medical bills, stopping $1 billion surprise bills per month so far. We're protecting seniors' life savings by cracking down on nursing homes that commit fraud, endanger patient safety, prescribe drugs that are not needed. Millions of Americans can now save thousands of dollars because they can finally get a hearing aid over the counter without a prescription.
Yes. Yes.
Capitalism without competition is not capitalism. It's extortion. It's exploitation. Last year, I cracked down with the help of many of you on foreign shipping companies that were making you pay higher prices for every good coming into the country. I signed a bipartisan bill that cut shipping costs by 90%, helping American farmers, businessmen, and consumers. Let's finish the job. Pass the bipartisan legislation to strengthen antitrust enforcement and prevent big online platforms from giving their own products an unfair advantage. My administration is also taking on junk fees, those hidden surcharges too many companies use to make you pay more. For example, we're making airlines show you the full ticket price up front, refund your money if your flight is canceled or delayed. We've reduced exorbitant bank overdrafts by saving consumers more than $1 billion a year. We're cutting credit card late fees by 75% from $30 to $8.
Huge.
Look, junk fees may not matter to the very wealthy, but they matter to most other folks in homes like the one I grew up in, like many of you did. They add up to hundreds of dollars a month. They make it harder for you to pay your bills or afford that family trip. I know how unfair it feels when a company overcharges you and gets away with it. Not anymore. We've written a bill to stop it all. It's called the Junk Fee Prevention Act. We're going to ban surprise resort fees that hotels charge on your bill.
Oh,
those
Vegas
fees can cost up to $90 a night at hotels that aren't even resorts.
Yes.
The idea that cable...
I'm sorry, New Orleans hotel.
Internet and cell phone companies can charge you $200 or more if you decide to switch to another provider. Give me a break. We can stop service fees on tickets to concerts and sporting events and make companies disclose all the fees up front. And we'll prohibit airlines from charging $50 round trip for a family just to be able to sit together. Baggage fees are bad enough. Airlines...
Do they do that? I guess if you choose your seat, yeah, it's $35 on American or whatever. The last time I chose a seat, yeah, I usually fly Southwest until they stopped and went out of business.
Can't treat your child like a piece of baggage. Americans are tired of being. We're tired of being played for such.
Is that a thing? Is that if you want your kid to sit with you, do you have to pay $50? Is that a thing now?
So pass the Junk Fee Prevention Act so companies stop ripping us off. For too long, workers have been getting stiffed, but not anymore. We're beginning to restore the dignity of work. For example, I should have known this, but I didn't until 2 years ago. 30 million workers have to sign non-compete agreements with the jobs they take. 30 million. So a cashier at a burger place can't walk across town and take the same job at another burger place and make a few bucks more. It just changed. But they just changed it because we exposed it. That was part of the deal, guys. Look it up. But not anymore. Can't walk across town. I didn't until 2 years ago. 30 million workers have to sign non-compete agreements with the jobs they take. 30 million.
Yeah.
So a cashier.
That's true. Like at some Burger Kings, some Harveys, some Wendy's, McDonald's, they make you sign non-compete clauses so you can't quit there and go work at another burger place. That's absolutely true.
At a burger place, can't walk across town and take the same job at another burger place and make a few bucks more.
That's true.
But they just changed it because we exposed it. That was part of the deal, guys. Look it up. But not anymore. We're banning those agreements so companies have to compete for workers and pay them what they're worth. And I must tell you, this is bound to get a response from my friends on my left but the right. I'm so sick and tired of companies breaking the law by preventing workers from organizing. Pass the PRO Act.
Yes.
Because business have a right. Workers have a right to form a union. And let's guarantee all workers have a living wage. Let's make sure working parents can afford to raise a family with sick days, paid family medical leave, affordable child care.
Yep, Kevin McCarthy just isn't going to clap for affordable child care.
That's going to enable millions of more people to go and stay at work. And let's restore the full child tax credit.
Yes.
Which gave tens of millions of parents some breathing room.
Yes.
And cut child poverty in half to the lowest level in history. And by the way, when we do all these things, we increase productivity. We increase economic growth.
Yep.
So let's finish the job.
10, 11 million open jobs. Who can get the fill? You let the mothers or the fathers who are looking after the kids put their kids in childcare so they can socialize with other kids and learn things, and then they can go and fill those jobs.
And get more families access to affordable quality housing. Let's get seniors who want to stay in their homes the care they need to do so. Let's give more breathing room to millions of family caregivers looking after their loved ones. Pass my plan so we get seniors and people with disabilities the home care and services they need. And support the workers who are doing God's work.
Won't even go up for a vote because of Kevin McCarthy.
These plans are fully paid for and we can afford to do them. Restoring the dignity of work means making education an affordable ticket to the middle class. You know, when we made public education, 12 years of it, universal in the last century, we made the best educated, best paid, we became the best educated, best paid nation in the world. But the rest of the world's caught up. It's caught up. Jill, my wife, who teaches full time, has an expression. I hope I get it right, kid. Any nation that out-educates us is going to out-compete us. Any nation that out-educates is going to out-compete us. Folks, we all know 12 years of education is not enough to win the economic competition of the 21st century. We want to have the best educated workforce. Let's finish the job by providing access to preschool for 3 and 4 years old. Studies show that children who go to preschool are nearly 50% more likely to finish high school and go on to earn a 2 or 4 year degree, no matter their background they came from. Let's give public school teachers a raise.
Yep, no applause for teachers. Trump just tweeted, if I gave a speech like this, they'd run me out of Washington, D.C. But there's time left. Maybe he can save it. They did run him out of Washington, D.C., by the way, the voters. And the support staff, yes.
We're making progress.
More money for everybody
By
is my
reducing
thing.
student debt, increasing Pell Grants for working and middle-class families. Let's finish the job and connect students to career opportunities starting in high school. Provide access to 2 years of community college. The best career training in America, in addition to being a pathway to a 4-year degree. Let's offer every American a path to a good career, whether they go to college or not. And folks, in the midst of the COVID crisis, when schools were closed and we were shutting down everything, let's recognize how far we came in the fight against the pandemic itself. While the virus is not gone, thanks to the resilience of the American people and the ingenuity of medicine, we've broken the COVID grip on us. COVID deaths are down by 90%. We've saved millions of lives and opened up our country. We opened our country back up, and soon we'll end the public health emergency. But that's called a public health emergency. But we'll remember the toll and pain that's never going to go away. More than 1 million Americans lost their lives to COVID. 1 million. Families grieving, children orphaned, empty chairs at the dining room table constantly reminding you that she used to sit there. Remembering them, we remain vigilant. We still need
Kevin McCarthy is so bored by stories of dead Americans.
to monitor dozens of variants and support new vaccines and treatments. So Congress needs to fund these efforts and keep America safe. And as we emerge from this crisis stronger, we're also got to double down on prosecuting criminals who stole relief money meant to keep workers and small businesses afloat.
Yeah, if only we had someone who could crack down on crime committed against the American people. If only there was someone who was willing to stand up. Oh, who's that young buck in the front row?
Before I came to office, you remember, during that campaign, the big issue was about inspector generals who would protect taxpayers' dollars who were sidelined. They were fired. Many people said we don't need them. And fraud became rampant. Last year, I told you the watchdogs are back. Since then, Since then, we've recovered billions of taxpayers' dollars. Now let's triple the anti-fraud strike force going after these criminals, double the statute of limitations on these crimes, and crack down on identity fraud by criminal syndicates stealing billions of dollars from the American people. And the data shows that for every dollar we put into fighting fraud, the taxpayers get back at least 10 times as much. It matters. It matters. Look, COVID left its scars, like the spike in violent crime in 2020, the first year of the pandemic. We have an obligation to make sure all people are safe. Public safety depends on public trust, as all of us know. But too often that trust is violated. Joining us tonight are the parents of Tyree Nichols. Welcome. We had to bury Tyree last week. As many of you personally know, there's no words to describe the heartache or grief of losing a child. But imagine if you lost that child at the hands of the law. Imagine having to worry whether your son or daughter came home from walking down the street, playing in the park, or just driving a car. Most of us in here have never had to have the talk that brown and black parents have had to have with their children. Bo, Hunter, Ashley, my children. I never had to have the talk with them. I never had to tell them, if a police officer pulls you over, turn your interior lights on right away. Don't reach for your license. Keep your hands on the steering wheel. Imagine having to worry like that every single time your kid got in a car. Here's what Tyree's mother shared with me when I spoke to her. When I asked her how she finds the courage to carry on and speak out. The faith of God, she said her son was, quote, a beautiful soul, and something good will come of this. Imagine how much courage and character that takes. It's up to us, to all of us. We all want the same thing. Neighborhoods free of violence. Law enforcement who earns the community's trust. Just as every cop, when they pin on that badge in the morning, has a right to be able to go home at night, so does everybody else out there. Our children have a right to come home safely. Equal protection under the law is a covenant we have with each other in America. We know police officers put their lives on the line every single night and day. And we know we ask them in many cases to do too much, to be counselors, social workers, psychologists, responding to drug overdoses, mental health crises, and so much more. In one sense, we ask much too much of them. I know most cops and their families are good, decent, honorable people, the vast majority. But they risk and they risk their lives every time they put that shield on. But what happened to Tyree in Memphis happens too often. We have to do better. Give law enforcement the real training they need. Hold them to higher standards. Help them succeed in keeping us safe. We also need more first responders and professionals to address the growing mental health, substance abuse challenges. More resources to reduce violent crime and gun crime. More community intervention programs. More investment in housing, education, and job training. All this can help prevent violence in the first place. And when police officers or police departments violate the public trust, they must be held accountable. With the support of the families of victims, civil rights groups, and law enforcement, I signed an executive order for all federal officers banning chokeholds, restricting no-knock warrants, and other key elements of the George Floyd Act. Let's commit ourselves to make the words of Tyler's mom true. Something good must come from this. Something good. And all of us, folks, it's difficult, but it's simple. All of us.
I don't know what Tyree's mom just said there, but did she say "do it" and indicated to the crowd below? They're up in the second level there, the gallery.
In this chamber, we need to rise to this moment. We can't turn away. Let's do what we know in our hearts that we need to do. Let's come together to finish the job on police reform. Do something. Do something. That was the plea of parents who lost their children in Uvalde. I met with every one of them. Do something about gun violence. Thank God. Thank God we did. Passing the most sweeping gun safety law in 3 decades.
It wasn't sweeping, but it was something.
That includes things like that the majority.
Some of the Republicans voted for it.
Majority of responsible gun owners already support enhanced background checks for 18 to 21 years old, red flag laws, keeping guns out of the hands of people who are a danger to themselves and others. But we know our work is not done. Joining us tonight is Brandon Say, a 26-year-old hero.
Yeah.
Brandon put his college dreams on hold to be at his mom's side. His mom's side when she was dying from cancer. And Brandon now works at the dance studio started by his grandparents. And 2 weeks ago, during the Lunar New Year celebrations, he heard the studio door close, and he saw a man standing there pointing a semi-automatic pistol at him. He thought he was going to die, but he thought about the people inside. And in that instant, he found the courage to act and wrestled a semi-automatic pistol away from the gunman who had already killed 11 people in another dance studio. 11. He saved lives. It's time we do the same. Ban assault weapons now. Ban them now. Once and for all.
And there's Republicans just shaking their heads about, no, that man they need assault weapons. That happened in Monterey Park on a street that I lived on in high school. 11 dead. And this was, the gunman went to another studio, dance studio, to shoot that up too. And this gentleman right here, this hero, he saved I don't know how many lives. He thought of others before himself. We need more of that. Meanwhile, the Republicans are like, oh no. Every American has the right to kill mass number of, because government might come and the tanks. Idiots. Sickening.
I led the fight to do that in 1994. In 10 years, that ban was law, mass shootings went down. After we let it expire in the Republican administration, mass shootings tripled. Let's finish the job and ban these assault weapons. And let's also come together on immigration. Make it a bipartisan issue once again.
That's the Republicans' big thing right now is immigration. Immigration, the economy. The trouble is the economy's roaring. But Republicans are like, oh, the immigration, the borders, flooding, and oh, everybody's dying. But they're not going to applaud for this. Let's come together and work on immigration. And they can't applaud. Here's the problem. If the Republicans fix immigration with the Democrats, they don't win another election.
We know we now have a record number of personnel working to secure the border, arresting 8,000 human smugglers, seizing over 23,000 pounds of fentanyl in just the last several months. We've launched a new border plan last month. Unlawful migration from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela.
That's Mayorkas. He's the guy the Republicans want to impeach because of the border.
Has come down 97% as a consequence of that. But American border problems won't be fixed until Congress acts. If we don't pass my comprehensive immigration reform, at least pass my plan to provide the equipment and officers to secure the border.
Yes! Yeah, oh, there's Ted Cruz looking smug. Yes! He's right! Congress has had decades to come up with a better immigration system, and they've refused to do it. It is sabotaged perpetually by the Republicans. And I'm not a Democrat. I'm an independent. But it's Republicans that have time and time again since the 1970s sabotaged immigration reform. Ted Cruz being one of them. Fucking Sam I am.
And a pathway to citizenship for dreamers, those on temporary status, farm workers, essential workers. Here in the People's House, it's our duty to protect all the people's rights.
Okay, that's going to be a talking point. That's going to be a Republican ad now. That farm workers are going to have a pathway to citizenship. That's not what he said, but that's the way they're going to interpret it.
Rights and freedoms. Congress must restore the right and the...
I think they're yelling, secure the border.
Congress must restore the right that was taken away in Roe v. Wade. And
he can't respond to them because that's going to be a two-way thing and it's going to continue.
Protect Roe v. Wade. Give every woman a
He's staring him down, though. He's hard staring him.
Right. The Vice President and I are doing everything to protect access to reproductive health care and safeguard patient safety. But already more than a dozen states are enforcing extreme abortion bans. Make no mistake about it. If Congress passes a national ban, I will veto it.
Yeah!
But let's also pass the Bipartisan Equality Act to ensure LGBTQ Americans, especially transgender young people, can live with safety and dignity. Our strength is not just...
Why'd they go to Kirsten Sinema on that? Basically, anytime they show the audience, you're looking at Kirsten Sinema.
The example of our power, but the power of our example. Let's remember the world's watching. I spoke in this chamber 1 year ago, just days after Vladimir Putin unleashed his brutal attack against Ukraine. A murderous assault, evoking images of death and destruction Europe suffered in World War II. Putin's invasion has been a test for the ages, a test for America, a test for the world. Would we stand for the most basic of principles? Would we stand for sovereignty? Would we stand for the right of people to live free of tyranny? Would we stand for the defense of democracy? For such defense matters to us because it keeps peace and prevents open season on would-be aggressors and threatens our prosperity. 1 year later, we know the answer. Yes, we would, and we did. We did. And together, we did what America always does at our best. We led. We united NATO. We built a global coalition. We stood against Putin's aggression. We stood with the Ukrainian people. Tonight, we're once again joined by Ukrainian's ambassador to the United States. She represents not just her nation, but the courage of her people. Our ambassador is here, united. We're united in our support of your country. Will you stand so we can all take a look at you? Thank you. Because we're going to stand with you as long as it takes. Our nation is working for more freedom, more dignity, more peace, not just in Europe, but everywhere. Before I came to office, the story was about how the People's Republic of China was increasing its power and America was failing in the world. Not anymore. We made clear, and I made clear in my personal conversations, which have been many, with President Xi, that we seek competition, not conflict. But I will make no apologies that we're investing to make America stronger. Investing in American innovation and industries will
Secretary of State Anthony Blinken
define the future that China intends to be dominating. Investing in our alliance.
MTG's yelling something. I'm sorry.
Conflict. But I will make no apologies that we're investing to make America stronger. Investing in American innovation and industries will define the future that China intends to be dominating. Investing in our alliances and working with our allies.
She's being hushed. She's being hushed by her Republican friends.
To protect advanced technologies so they will not be used against us. Modernizing our military to safeguard stability and deter aggression. Today, we're in the strongest position in decades to compete with China or anyone else in the world. Anyone else in the world. And I'm committed.
The military folks don't applaud or stand for any of the presidents. They're completely apolitical. So they're supposed to sit there stone-faced. Plus, it's really hard to stand up with all that weight on their chest.
I'm committed to work with China where we can advance American interests and benefit the world. But make no mistake about it. As we made clear last week, if China threatens our sovereignty, we will act to protect our country, and we did. Look, let's be clear. Winning the competition should unite all of us. We face serious challenges across the world. But in the past 2 years, democracies have become stronger, not weaker.
Democracy.
Autocracy has grown weaker, not stronger. Name me a world leader who changed places with Xi Jinping. Name me one. Name me one. America's rallying the world to meet those challenges, from climate to global health, to food insecurity, to terrorism, to territorial aggression. Allies are stepping up, spending more and doing more. Look, the bridges we're forming between partners in the Pacific and those in the Atlantic, and those who bet against America are learning how wrong they are. It's never, ever been a good bet to bet against America. Never.
Oh, he's going to applaud that, at least. Kevin's going to be like, that's a good America thing. They're even clapping it in the gallery.
Came to office most assured that bipartisanship assumed was impossible, but never believed it. That's why a year ago I offered a unity agenda to the nation as I stood here. We made real progress together. We passed a law making it easy for doctors to prescribe effective treatments for opioid addiction. We passed the gun safety law, making historic investments in mental health. We launched the ARPA-H drive for breakthrough in the fights against cancer, Alzheimer's, and diabetes, and so much more. We passed the Heath Robinson PACT Act, named after the late Iraq War veteran whose story about exposure to toxic burn kits I shared here last year.
Good, good, good. Stand up.
I understand something about those burn pits, but there's so much more to do. We can do it.
The belief is that his son, Beau Biden, contracted the cancer from those burn pits and consequently passed away. So that's why he says that.
Together. Joining us tonight is a father named Doug from Newton, New Hampshire. He wrote Jill, my wife, a letter, and me as well, about his courageous daughter, Courtney. A contagious laugh, his sister's best friend, her sister's best friend. He shared a story all too familiar to millions of Americans and many of you in the audience. Courtney discovered pills in high school. It spiraled into addiction. and eventually death from a fentanyl overdose. She was just 20 years old. Describing the last 8 years without her, Doug said, "There's no worse pain." Yet their family has turned pain to purpose, working to end the stigma and change laws. He told us he wants to start a journey toward American recovery. Doug, we're with you. Fentanyl is killing more than 70,000 Americans a year.
They're all yelling, "Close the border."
Got it.
By the way, 95% of the fentanyl comes in through open border crossings. The places that they're supposed to come across. It's being smuggled in. They need more enforcement at the borders. It's the people coming across the border illegally or asking for asylum, which is legal, by the way. Once you're on the American ground, that's fine. They're not necessarily bringing most of the drugs. Most of the drugs are coming across the border in the bottom of pickup trucks or smuggled in someone's jacket or whatever at the border crossings.
So let's launch a major surge to stop fentanyl production and the sale and trafficking with more drug detection machines, inspection cargo, stop pills and powder at the border.
At the border. Thank you.
Working with couriers like FedEx to inspect more packages for drugs. Strong penalties to crack down on fentanyl trafficking. Second, let's do more on mental health, especially for our children. When millions of young people are struggling with bullying, violence, trauma, we owe them greater access to mental health care at their schools. We must finally hold social media companies accountable for experimenting they're doing running children for profit. It's time to pass bipartisan legislation to stop big tech from collecting personal data on our kids and teenagers online. Ban targeted advertising to children and impose stricter limits on the personal data that companies collect on all of us. Third, let's do more to keep this nation's one truly sacred obligation to equip those we send into harm's way and care for them and their families when they come home. Job training, job placement for veterans and their spouses as they come to return to civilian life. Helping veterans afford the rent, because no one should be homeless in America, especially someone who served the country.
Alan Alda looks terrible.
Dennis McDonough is here, of the VA. We had a first real discussion when I asked him to take the job. I'm glad he did. We were losing up to 25 veterans a day on suicide. Now we're losing 17 a day to the silent scourge of suicide. 17 veterans a day are committing suicide. More than all the people being killed in the wars. Folks, VA is doing everything it can, including expanding mental health screening, proven programs that recruits veterans to help other veterans understand what they're going through, get them the help they need. We got to do more. And fourth, last year, Jill and I reignited the cancer moonshot that I was able to start with President Obama asked me to lead our administration on this issue. Our goal is to cut the cancer death rates at least by 50% in the next 25 years. Turn more cancers from death sentences to treatable diseases. Provide more support for patients and their families. It's personal to so many of us in this audience. Joining us are Morris and Candice, an Irishman and the daughter of immigrants from Panama. They met and fell in love in New York City and got married in the same chapel Jill and I got married in New York City. Kindred spirits. He wrote us a letter about his little daughter, Ava, and I saw her just before I came over. She was just a year old when she was diagnosed with rare kidney disease, cancer. After 26 blood transfusions, 11 rounds of radiation, 8 rounds of chemo, 1 kidney removed, giving a 5% survival rate. He wrote how in the darkest moments he thought, if she goes, I can't stay. Many of you have been through that as well. Jill and I understand that like so many of you. And he read Jill's book describing our family's cancer journey and how we tried to steal moments of joy where we could with Bo. For them, that glimmer of joy was the half smile of their baby girl. It meant everything to them. They never gave up hope. Little Ava never gave up hope. She turns 4 next month. They just found out Ava's beating the odds, is on her way to being cured of cancer. And she's watching from the White House tonight if she's not asleep already. For the lives we can save. For the lives we can save.
Those two are invited over for dinner anytime. Bring by Ava. We'll get a dog so she can play with the dog.
In the lives we've lost, let this be a truly American moment that rallies the country and the world together and proves that we can still do big things. 20 years ago, under the leadership of President Bush and countless advocates and champions, he undertook a bipartisan effort through PEPFAR to transform the global fight against HIV/AIDS. It's been a huge success. He thought big. He thought large. He moved. I believe we can do the same thing with cancer. Let's end cancer as we know it. Cure some cancers once and for all. Folks, there's one reason why we've been able to do all of these things. Our democracy itself. It's the most fundamental thing of all.
Was it Bono killed cancer? Bono killed cancer?
With democracy,
Bono?
Everything's possible. Without it, nothing is. For the last few years, our democracy has been threatened and attacked, put at risk, put to the test in this very room on January the 6th. And then just a few months ago, an unhinged big lie assailed and unleashed a political violence, the home of the then Speaker of the House of Representatives, using the very same language the insurrectionists used as they stalked these halls and chanted on January 6th. Here tonight in this chamber is a man who bears the scars of that brutal attack, but is as tough and as strong, as resilient as they get. My friend Paul Pelosi. Paul, stand up. That such a heinous act should have never happened. We must all speak out. There's no place for political violence in America. We have to protect the right to vote, not suppress the fundamental right. Honor the results of our elections, not subvert the will of the people. We have to uphold the rule of law and restore trust in our institutions of democracy. And we must give hate and extremism in any form no safe harbor. Democracy
not going to stand up for safe harbor for hate.
Must not be a partisan issue. It's an American issue. Every generation of Americans has faced a moment where they
apparently it's a bipartisan issue.
Have been called to protect our democracy, defend it, stand up for it. And this is our moment. My fellow Americans, we meet tonight at an inflection point. One of those moments that only a few generations ever face, where the direction we now take is going to decide the course of this nation for decades to come. We're not bystanders of history. We're not powerless before the forces that confront us. It's within our power of we, the people. We're facing the test of our time. We have to be the nation we've always been at our best, optimistic, hopeful, forward-looking. A nation that embraces light over dark, hope over fear, unity over division, stability over chaos. We have to see each other not as enemies, but as fellow Americans. We're good people. The only nation in the world built on an idea, the only one. Other nations are defined by geography, ethnicity. But we're the only nation based on an idea that all of us, every one of us, is created equal in the image of God. A nation that stands as a beacon to the world. A nation in a new age of possibilities. So I've come to fulfill my constitutional obligation to report in the State of the Union. And here's my report. Because the soul of this nation is strong, because the backbone of this nation is strong, because the people of this nation are strong, the State of the Union is strong.
Yeah. Did you see McCarthy there? He just kind of rubbed his hands because he would do I clap? America, good? Yes? No? Just gonna, I want to clap so badly.
Because the backbone of this nation is strong. Because the people of this nation are strong. The State of the Union is strong.
He clapped like twice.
I'm not new to this place. I stand here tonight having served as long as about any one of you have ever served here. But I've never been more optimistic about our future, about the future of America. We just have to remember who we are. We're the United States of America, and there's nothing beyond our capacity if we do it together. God bless you all, and may God protect our troops. Thank you.
President Joe Biden's second State of the Union address, running about 72 minutes long, interrupted about 100 times for ovations. The president touting a list of what he called major successes and a story.
Running about 17 minutes long. Not running for an hour and 17 minutes. Running for about 17 minutes long.
Of America, a story of progress and resilience, he said. He touted the bipartisan infrastructure bill numerous times, also the so-called Inflation Reduction Act for climate change investments. When he accused Republicans, though, of wanting to sunset Medicare and Social Security in the debt ceiling debate, that chamber looked and sounded more like the House of Commons in the UK, with many members piping up. It did turn out into a bipartisan moment.
That's not what he said. That's not what he said, Brett. He said that some Republicans, not even a majority, he said that. He made very clear that he wasn't talking about Republicans en masse. What is wrong with the comprehension level of most of the people on the TVs?
All right, thank you very much, Aisha. You see Kevin McCarthy banging down the gavel, ending this session. There were times when he sort of was looking over at some of his...
Where's the Republican rebuttal?
Of somebody who could go from White House press secretary to being governor. I think it's amazing, and it's wonderful that she's giving this speech tonight. It's interesting because you say that this new era. Now, the Democrats also have a little bit of a new era, right? Hakeem Jeffries.
Somebody call up Sarah Huckabee Sanders and let her know my back is hurting, and I want to cover this, but it's got to happen.
Now the leader of the Democrats in the House, Chuck Schumer, still over there in the Senate, but there is a call.
What did you guys think of the speech there? Eve I thought excellent, so good, bravo. Ann says he crushed it. Eve says Kevin McBlinked hard. Yep. Thanks for doing this, KevinlyFather. You're welcome, Stephanie. Thanks for watching.
All across the nation, a desire for a younger leadership. However, that might not be what they get when it comes to the two presidential candidates as we look to the possibility of a Biden-Trump.
Producer Jojo wants to cry. She always wants to cry. So
rematch, and I don't know how that's going to go. I was also thinking of Biden.
Midterms, and they didn't turn out how Republicans thought they were going to, with Democrats outperforming where they were, and that has emboldened this president and this White House.
Yep.
Look, we talk about his energy, and Larry touched on. He's 80 years old. It took him 30 minutes to get out that chamber. I mean, he even stayed another 30 minutes had they not gabbled the thing down. Two, I agree with you, Larry. I don't like when American presidents pit U.S. companies against people. I know what the president's trying to get at, but we need a fair tax system. But pharma was good to us during COVID. Big oil is important to us as we.
And we were good to pharma during COVID. But there's no reason that people have to pay $500 a month for insulin.
We now find ourselves at a war a war in Ukraine. So I think that us versus them thing is not necessarily the thing to do, but we need a fair tax code. Even you and I start talking about how we could agree on the Medicaid expansion by making work requirements. Those are the things we need.
I agree with you 100%. You always were like that. You're a moderate Democrat. It's all cheap shots. All right, we got to get out. We're
going to head to Little Rock, Arkansas. I was enjoying that common ground. Let's listen to Sarah Huckabee Sanders.
I'm Sarah Huckabee Sanders. Being a mom to 3 young children taught me not to believe every story I hear.
They didn't test the audio. They did not test the audio. She sounds like my room.
So forgive me for not believing much of anything I heard tonight from President Biden.
Did you even listen?
From out of control inflation and violent crime.
It's not out of control. It's coming down. It's the opposite.
To the dangerous border crisis and threat from China.
Oh my God, the audio is just brutally bad.
Biden and
they have lapel mics. They have boom mics. They have shotgun mics. There are many different mics. Michael Jordan, Michael Jackson, anyone could have been used.
The Democrats have failed you.
Mike Huckabee!
They know it, and you know it. And it's time for a change. Tonight, let us reaffirm our commitment to a timeless American idea.
What?
That government exists not to rule the people, but to serve the people.
Right.
Democrats want to rule us with more government control.
Government? What'd she say?
Tonight, let us reaffirm our commitment to a timeless American idea. That government exists not to rule the people, but to serve the people. Democrats want to rule us with more government control.
My brain can't process. Government?
But that's not who we are.
No.
America is the greatest country the world has ever known because we're the freest country the world has ever known with a people who are strong and resilient.
That's right, Kimchi. The freest country unless you want to have books in schools. No.
5 months ago, I was diagnosed with thyroid cancer.
Oh, man. Sorry.
It was a hard time for our family, particularly our kids, Scarlett, Huck, and George. But we kept our faith and persevered. Thanks to exceptional doctors here in Arkansas, a successful surgery, and the grace of God.
And the infrastructure that government has built.
I am cancer-free.
Good for you.
Through it all, I couldn't help but think about my mom. She was 20 years old and in her first year of marriage when she was diagnosed with spinal cancer.
Oh.
The doctors told her she might not live, and if she did live, they said she'd never walk again. And if she did walk, she'd definitely never have children. The daughter she was
What happened?
Told she'd never have was just sworn in as the new governor of Arkansas and is speaking to you tonight. Adversity and fear of the unknown can paralyze us.
What? Okay, that's a good story. What does that have to do with what? Anything?
Faith propels us to charge.
We're talking about the State of the Union. You're replying to Joe Biden's address. What's the deal with the story of the mom? I like that you've named your children for some reason. Don't talk about my children. Buck, Carissa, and Jeffrey.
Boldly ahead. We can't stand still in the face of great challenges. You and I were put on this earth for such a time as this.
What?
To charge boldly ahead.
Okay.
I'll be the first to admit, President Biden and I don't have a lot in common. I'm for freedom.
Americans.
He's for government control.
No, that's not true.
At 40, I'm the youngest governor in the country. And at 80, he's the oldest president in American history.
Okay, that's not...
I'm the first woman to lead my...
He's a man, you're a woman, you're a governor, he's a president, he's also been a vice president and a senator, all at the federal level, and you're a governor of... Arkansas?
State. And he's the first man to surrender his presidency to a woke mob that can't even tell you what a woman
Okay, this is just nonsense.
is. In the radical left's America, Washington taxes you and
This is probably pre-recorded.
lights your hard-earned money on fire. But you get crushed with high gas prices, empty grocery shelves.
Gas is down $1.50.
And our children.
I don't know where the empty grocery, even with the supposed egg shortage that we have going on right now, I can buy eggs. Still eggs.
Are taught to hate one another on account of their race, but not to love one another or our great country.
Does anybody with kids out there, does anyone have any evidence whatsoever that kids are being taught to hate one another because of their race? Is that happening anywhere in America?
Whether Joe Biden believes this madness or is simply too weak to resist it, his administration has been completely hijacked.
Wow. This is the Republican Party.
The radical left. The dividing line in America is no longer between...
JoJo bought a dozen eggs at Trader Joe's today for $299.
Right or left. The choice is between normal or crazy. It's time for...
It is. She's absolutely right. She is 100% right. Guess which side she's on?
A new generation of Republican leadership. Upon taking office just a few weeks ago, I signed executive orders to ban CRT, racism, and indoctrination in our schools. Eliminate the use of derogatory terms.
Because freedom.
Latinx in our government.
Because freedom.
Repealed COVID orders and said never again to authoritarian mandates and shutdowns. Americans want common sense from their leaders. But in Washington, the Biden administration is doubling down on crazy. President Biden inherited the fastest economic recovery on record.
It's actually not true.
The most secure border in history, cheap, abundant, homegrown energy.
Also not true.
Fast rising wages.
I mean, the production of oil plummeted during COVID, and it didn't start up again for quite a while. Now we're hitting new records. Permian Basin now producing more oil. That's Texas, New Mexico. Now producing more oil than at any time in history. Biden is outproducing almost every month of Trump's energy production, except for 2 months. That's all that Trump right now has on Biden, and in about 2 or 3 months, Biden will surpass those.
A rebuilt military and a world that was stable and at peace.
You
but
know,
over the last
COVID, you know, Vladimir Putin in Crimea, the entire length of Trump's presidency.
2 years, Democrats destroyed it all. Despite Democrats' trillions in reckless spending and mountains of debt, we now have the worst border crisis in American history.
And then Joe Biden said, hey, we should come together and fix the border, and none of you wanted on board.
As a mom, my heart breaks for every parent who has lost a son
or a daughter to a school shooting or to an assault rifle. Is that what you're about to say?
Son or daughter to addiction.
Okay.
100,000 Americans a year.
Right. Biden talked about that. Good. I'm glad we're on board with that. Moving on.
Are now killed from drug overdoses.
Yeah.
Largely from fentanyl pouring across our southern border.
Right.
Yet the Biden administration refuses to secure the border and save American lives.
But he just said that Congress should pass the legislation so that more money goes towards securing the border. Well, I don't think she watched the speech at all. I have a feeling like she's reading this.
And after years of Democrat attacks on law enforcement and
Democratic attacks on law enforcement,
calls to defund the police, violent criminals roam free, while law-abiding families live in fear. Beyond our border, from Afghanistan to Ukraine, from North Korea to Iran, President Biden's weakness puts our nation and the world.
What's the weakness in the Ukraine? Giving them $50 billion worth of weapons, etc. What's the weakness there?
At risk. And the president's refusal to stand up to China, our most formidable adversary.
Putin loves this address.
Is dangerous and unacceptable.
Is this about the balloon? This is about the balloon.
President Biden is unwilling to defend our border, defend our skies, and defend our people. He is simply unfit to serve as commander-in-chief.
Okay, well, you're governor
And while
now,
you
so
read
why
the
don't you run for
consequences
president?
of their failures, the Biden administration seems more interested in woke fantasies than the hard reality Americans face.
Okay, just once I'd like to see a rebuttal. And sometimes, actually, I've seen rebuttals. Bobby Jindal was not bad. And then went on to call the Republicans the party of stupid. Bobby Jindal had to, like, take a drink every 3 seconds. Because he kept saying the drinking word. Wasn't his fault. All right, I'm bored of her already, and honestly, my legs hurt. So that's it for tonight, guys. Thanks for watching with me. Those of you that are still left around. Those of you who are watching and not watching it live, subscribe to the channel. At some point, my back's going to be all better, and I'm going to be broadcasting, hopefully, on a regular basis. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Be well. The state of our union.